Ask Reddit on Reddit Rundown. People who have come close to dying, what were your last thoughts? I was in a fight and I didn't know I was stabbed in the liver and the lung. I walked away with my friend and collapsed in an alley. I remember bleeding out with calming waves of euphoria washing over me and I thought, I've lived enough, I'm okay with this. I blacked out and woke up in the back of an ambulance with waves of immense pain assaulting my body. Dying isn't awful, surviving is awful. Funny, for lack of a better word, story, when I was 10, my family went to Florida on vacation with some other extended family. There was a plan where my parents went back home, Massachusetts, a few days before my brother and I so we could stay longer with my aunt and cousins. It was my first time traveling with just my older brother and my second time on a plane, the first being the trip there. Coming into Logan Airport, our airplane started to fall out of the sky. Quite literally. Apparently, it only happened for about 3 to 5 seconds, but the pressure made the oxygen masks fall from the ceiling. I'd seen enough movies at that point to know that basically meant we were going to die. I was for sure crying and freaking out like everyone else on the aircraft, for sure the most frightening experience of my life, bar none. But I distinctly remember thinking, I'm never going to get to finish my Age of Empires 2 campaign. So, a video game was ostensibly my last thought. My father-in-law was having a heart attack that is often referred to as the Widowmaker. After everything went down, he's fully recovered, thankfully. He said it wasn't painful, he was just really tired. He was planning to go home and lay down for a nap. Thankfully, he was in public, and an off-duty paramedic happened to be where he was. If he made it home to take that nap, he wouldn't be here today. It's pretty crazy. I was stabbed in the neck by someone robbing my house. I totally thought I was going to die. I hate myself, but I begged the guy who stabbed me to stay because I didn't want to die alone. He said sorry and walked away. That fucking broke my heart. Thankfully he called 911 for me. A little over 10 years ago I had the Widowmaker heart attack. I spent the first day in the hospital with a balloon pump assisting my heart to help me stay alive until they could perform the surgery the next day. They told my wife that my chances of surviving were only about 20%. I had the priest in, family, the whole 9 yards. In the morning, as they wheeled me into the operating room, I was doing the Monty Python bit and get the machine that goes ping. In case the administrator comes by with a surgical nurse who was also a MP fan. The look on the surgeon's face was priceless, and I was chuckling as I went under. My last thoughts were, "Faye, we got this." The surgeon later told me that I was the only patient in his entire career that came into his operating room laughing, but that my attitude may have been a large factor in my survival. Nearly was run over in a town square when a car decided to go through it, instead of around it, and went onto the sidewalk. First and only thing to come out of my mouth to my friend next to me before we dove out of the way? Well, that's not good. Was on a road trip with my best friend, middle of the night, middle of nowhere. He was watching a movie on a little shit DVD player. I was going about 90. As I'm passing a semi his blinkers come on. So I consider falling back to not get merged into, but I'm young and stupid so I keep on the gas to get out of his way. I'm almost past him when I start to fishtail. Black ice. Let off the gas, hold the wheel straight, and the car is simply no longer in my control. As the car starts to spin, I very calmly turn to my friend, look him in the eyes, and tell him in a conversational tone, "Make sure your seatbelt's fastened, we're about to crash." The signal on the semi was probably his hazards, in retrospect. We luckily just spun out and wound up in the ditch on the far side of the road facing the wrong way, across 4 lanes of traffic in the pitch dark. So lucky. I was traveling on a major highway where I live, at night, in the pouring rain, with my infant daughter in her car seat in the back seat. I was trying to change lanes to get our exit. Visibility was next to zero, but I could definitely see a big fucking tanker truck in the lane beside us, but we were in front of it enough that I was so sure I had plenty of time to get in that lane in front of him. Blinker on, shoulder check, all good, so I start changing lanes, one more quick shoulder check, and fuck me if that goddamn tanker truck wasn't millimeters away from hitting us. While I don't recall saying anything, I can tell you, without a doubt, my life flashed before my eyes. I'm talking hundreds of snapshots of memories, me and a bike I had as a kid, my dad flying a kite with me and my sister, birthdays, funerals. On and on and on, but literally in a split fucking second. I can't explain it, but it happened. I honestly don't know how we avoided impact. I made a quick correction. We missed our exit, and at the next one I got off the highway, parked at a gas station and sat cradling my baby and sobbing. I was 16 years old. I had my lower right wisdom tooth come in and it broke the tooth next to it. That caused an abscess, which led to an infection in my jawbone. I was taken to the ER by my mother because she thought I had some sort of locked jaw because I couldn't open my mouth, it was so swollen. The doctor told her that I couldn't be treated there, and so I was ambulanced to another hospital an hour away. I remember slipping in and out of consciousness, getting prepped for the surgery and having my dad there. The last thing I remember thinking was that I didn't want to go yet. I would make so many people devastated if I died. I remember crying before, and my dad just calmed me down and told me he loved me. I recovered in the hospital for a month, got a visit from my then boyfriend, now husband, missed high school finals of that year, and was discharged on Christmas Eve. I had the worst strain of mono currently known: strep throat, double ear infection, upper respiratory flu, lower respiratory flu, a sinus infection, and pink eye. At the same time, they started testing me for a brain tumor before they knew what was wrong in the ER. My vision started fading and I couldn't hear, and the only thing I could think about was that I was going to ruin my parents', siblings', friends', and girlfriends' lives by dying so young and sudden. I didn't want to cause that kind of emotional pain to my loved ones. I thought I wasn't going to be able to say goodbye. I was so dehydrated that my organs were starting to shut down. Had I waited another day to go to the ER, I would have died from total organ failure. My body was making so many white blood cells that my counts were higher than some of the nurses and doctors had ever seen in their professional career. I was administered 3 separate sacks, you could call it, of fluids. They were keeping me alive at the time. They gave me a huge amount of prednisone. Over 200 milligrams doses. I was high as a kite for a week. I don't remember much from that week, but somehow I got home with my parents, lived on smoothies and slept a lot. I even managed to play Apex and win matches, and I don't even remember doing it. They forced me to drink 2 to 3 liters of water a day. I discharged a lot of phlegm. The week passed and the prednisone wiped out my flu and helped my body fight off my mono symptoms. But steroids can make bacterial infections like strep, ear infections, and pink eye feel worse. I couldn't speak for 2 weeks. After the steroids, I was put on an extremely powerful antibiotic and had to stay home for another 3 to 4 days because it completely wiped out the good bacteria in my body. After 3 weeks from visiting the ER, I went back to college. 5 weeks later I finished the semester with a 3.4. Pretty fucking proud of myself. I tried to commit suicide via drowning in a public pool. I was 8, and short for my age, so I purposely went to the deep end, and my last thoughts were, at least daddy won't see this and the rest of my family never pays attention to me, so I'm coming to heaven, God. The lifeguard rescued me just before I passed out, and my mother yelled at me for going to the deep end, saying I should have known better, and was told to sit on the grass for the rest of the day. I was dealing with being sexually abused by her father, and I just wanted it to finally end. When I was like 11 years old, I was home alone one day during the summer, just watching TV while eating Skittles. I liked to put a bunch in my mouth and make like a Skittle ball that I would chew on. Something on the show I was watching made me laugh and I swallowed the ball, which got lodged in my throat. I then experienced a few seconds of sheer terror because I realized that there was nobody here to help me at all and I was probably gonna die. Thankfully, I remembered some cartoon or movie where someone jammed their stomach on a chair and got something unstuck from their throat. So, I lunged at the corner of the recliner as hard as I could with my stomach, and it actually worked and popped the small ball out. It was super lucky because I really had no idea what I was doing, but one of the worst feelings I have ever experienced. Definitely never ate Skittles that way again after that, and to this day I'm still a bit paranoid about eating certain things when alone. Shit, wasn't the car that hit me white? As I'm looking down at a car underneath me. I'd been hit hard enough I bounced up over the car that hit me and had enough air time to clear the second one. Props to the driver of the third vehicle, he must have stood on the damned brakes the moment he saw me because he brought the cement truck to a stop before it got to me. Second time I was hit by a car as a pedestrian. I'm now much more careful crossing streets. Not that it's helped much, I seem to have a car magnet in my ass. They will never find me. Almost drowned in Hawaii in a riptide and no one noticed. I was 10. Thankfully I was a very strong swimmer and managed to swim out of it, but I was quite a ways out. The beach was very narrow, close in with rocks on each side, so I basically had to get pitted by a huge wave at the end to get through the last 20 yards. Crawled up on the beach, literally exhausted. Got yelled at for staying out too long. I remember each handful of pills going down so easily. Like simply swallowing a mouthful of food. It surprised me, as I was one who normally struggled to take more than a single pill at a time. I wasn't struggling this time though. I had downed a cocktail consisting of 6 handfuls of a small mix of medications. It took a moment before anything came to mind. Everything was so quiet. The silence was almost deafening. My mind became foggy. My stomach suddenly queasy. My legs and arms felt so tremendously heavy. Shaky. As I tried to get up, I started to feel my heart beating. It had a change in pace from normal, and was loud, like thunder pulsating in my ears. The first thing I managed to mumble out after fumbling to call my best friend on the phone was, I fucked up. Today marks 4 years since making it out of the psychiatric ward for my attempted overdose. I'm still alive, and it feels good. Fuck. Am I having a heart attack? There's no way, I'm not thin enough for that. My thoughts as my heart went into palpitations due to severe electrolyte imbalance BC of anorexia. Spoiler alert, I was thin enough. The doctor told me I could have dropped dead at any moment. Took me a while for recovery to click and several hospitalizations, but 6 years later I'm doing pretty good for myself. I was in the process of being electrocuted, having been working all day atop a scissors lift. The electricians had left a 277 volt line live, and while I was standing and reaching while running the last low voltage run of the job, I contacted their line. I saw the white light at the end of the tunnel. All I knew was throbbing and 60 cycle noise in the white light. My last thought was, I wonder if I can tell my knees to unlock? Obviously they did, since I am here typing this. Severe electrical burns, still here living the life. A year and a half ago I broke my neck in a skiing accident. Lying there I couldn't move or feel anything. I thought I may be a quadriplegic the rest of my life. Wait, I may not even make it. Letting that sink in a minute, I surveyed the expanse of my life in my mind's eye. Wow, I've had an amazing, bizarre, exciting, fascinating life. I'd like some more time, but if this is it, I'm okay with that. I am so grateful for the life I've had. Then an immense wave of peace and gratitude swept over me. Lord, I've done the best I could, I hope that's enough. All I ask is that you take me in your arms. Then the sound of skis and the ski patrol arrived. Today, I have recovered 98% of my pre-accident abilities. Out of all the shit I've been through, hypothermia was definitely the strangest time. I've almost died. I was running on adrenaline, and then when I was being driven to the hospital, I realized how empty my brain felt. No errant thoughts, no memories of music, no TV static, just nothing. I started to fall asleep and I woke up in a hospital bed under like 4 warmed blankets. Definitely the strangest, but also the most peaceful. Hello, have you ever had a headache that was so bad? I mean, like call your parents and ask them if you were still on the healthcare plan? Even though you live in Canada and they live in the USA? Yes, I've had this pain. I felt as if my head was going to implode. I was half right. I had a brain clot. Then bleed. So a stroke and an aneurysm all at once. My last thought before I regained consciousness weeks later? I don't want to die in this shitty ground level apartment. I have something wrong with my health where medications are a hard fucking no for me. Overdosed on normal dose of albuterol. Overdosed on normal dose of promethazine. Some other fucked up occurrences I don't care to speak about. But anyway, when I overdosed on promethazine, my fever shot through the fucking roof, 105 to 106, and wouldn't go away. I was in and out of consciousness and my wife said I was talking in my sleep a lot. I legitimately, 100%, without a shred of doubt in my mind thought I was in the middle of a war between us, humans, and fucking elves. I was talking about how we had to split the house with them to prevent another war, etc. My breathing was fucked up, fever wouldn't go away, I couldn't get up, I couldn't actually sleep, nothing. So, my last thoughts were, basically, Hopefully the elves are cool splitting the kitchen cause we need to eat still. Really fucked up time. I once had a terrible reaction to donating blood. My temperature shot up and my body started to just have an insane reaction. I remember watching Star Wars alone trying to just feel okay, and my girlfriend at the time arrived and said I was in 100% total delirium. I thought Darth Vader was someone I knew and the way he was behaving was terrifying to me. I kept throwing up and I thought he was force choking me and making me do it. I remember emptying my stomach, but still heaving to throw up. My last thought was, God, I can't throw up anymore. I gave you everything I had. What else do you want from me? Before passing out. In retrospect, I never actually did come close to dying, but I didn't know that. I was flying an airplane. Alone. Over a big lake. Engine started acting up. I radioed it in. Few seconds later came sputtering and then silence. Prop airplanes are loud, the silence is deafening. I clearly said over my comms, Houston flight, this is November 4th 9051 Alpha, I've lost my engine. Houston came back, 51 Alpha, say again. So I did, 51 Alpha repeating, I've lost my engine. There was a brief, but only very brief, moment of panic. After that I did everything I'd been taught and eventually got the plane safely on the ground. So like I said, I never actually was going to die. I guess? But there was that moment where I was sure I'd end up at the bottom of that lake. Honestly though, my thoughts were just, how in the fuck do I fix this? I tried to hang myself a few years ago. I was drinking, but I wasn't drunk, and while I was planning it for a while, I didn't plan to do it that night, just sort of seemed like a good last day. I used my work belt, tied a knot to jam into my bedroom door. I kicked a small stool out from under me. I remember thinking, good, this is it. You deserve this. I remember my legs were trashing while I fought the urge to try to reach for the stool. Then nothing. I woke up on the floor. My neck, my toes, and my back were incredibly sore. I have no idea how long I was out. Turns out the belt buckle couldn't support my weight, and flew across the room. I couldn't find it for a month. I had been rushed back to the hospital after tonsillectomy as an artery had been opened. I was hemorrhaging and waiting for the surgeon to show up. I knew I was about to pass out, and I said to myself, of course this is how you die, shaking my head in disappointment. Shooting blood out of my throat like a horror movie. Passed out. Surgery went well. But I code blue in recovery as I had clotting in my lungs. CPR, back to life, intubated then ICU. Woke up 2 days later and had no clue what had happened. Life has been better on every level since. Basically I get another go at life. Grateful. Not sure this is near death, but it was definitely an oh crap we're about to die moment. In high school I was driving around with 2 friends. I can't remember if the driver only had a school permit, which we used to drive everywhere, or right after we turned 16, on a gravel road. My friend, the driver, has ADHD, or ADD? And I was always designated as the front passenger when I was in the car because I was the responsible one, and my job was to grab the steering wheel and make sure we didn't drive off the road, or crash into anything when he got distracted and forgot to steer, and as a parent that's so terrifying now lol. I happened to be in the back seat that time and he was distracted and driving fast and didn't notice the turn in the road. He slammed the brakes and jerked the wheel, which sent us sliding. And all I could think was, he overcorrected. The closest to death I came was earlier this year. I had abnormal uterine bleeding that was so severe I couldn't stay conscious. I fainted 4 times in less than 12 hours. Threw up while I was unconscious twice. Luckily I was sitting up when I woke back up so I didn't choke. The one time I felt like I was dreaming, but it wasn't a flashing before your eyes kind of dream, it was just like I was dreaming of a normal mundane event. I was so unconscious I hit REM mode I suppose. As the day went on I eventually got to the point where I couldn't get up off the bathroom floor. I couldn't even sit up or I would have passed out again. An ambulance was called and I was taken out on a stretcher. I only had a vague awareness of what was going on around me. I had a very strong urge to sleep but I knew that I shouldn't, but I just kept wanting to close my eyes. My best friend, who was there at the time, kept nudging me so that I didn't before the ambulance arrived. I was so out of it I no longer felt fear or much awareness, just that I felt like sleeping but it didn't feel like something good would happen if I did sleep. Once I got to the ER, I was told that my hemoglobin count was 4.6 and was dropping fast. One of the nurses told me point blank if I hadn't come in I would have most likely died. I had to be given multiple blood transfusions to be even stabilized. Uterine fibroids are no joke. If you like the video, give a thumbs up and subscribe. And check out other videos on my channel. Thank you and have an awesome day.